What's going on, everyone? So something that I've talked about pretty heavily is D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, particularly Rui, moving him to the bench. And I even made a community post, talked about it on several occasions. Every time LeBron sits, D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura have their best performances. Why is that? Right? Are the Lakers really better without LeBron? No. The Lakers aren't better without LeBron. But the reason DLo and Rui play better without LeBron is because they get to play their natural positions. LeBron is essentially DLo and Rui combined, and thus they kind of get relegated to playing out of position at times, particularly Rui Hachimura, where he is a 4 that has to play the 3, and D'Angelo Russell doesn't get to be on ball and operate as the point guard as much, so he has to play more off ball, right? And then they end up having their struggles, right? Because talked about it, unless DLo is shooting the lights out entirely, at times he's completely redundant because he's not crazy athletic. He doesn't have the defensive prowess needed to be that point of attack defender or something to where it's like, okay, his shot isn't falling, but he's able to do all these other things. And in particular, this season, under J.J. Redick, with the new style of offense we're running, you don't really need that wheel and deal playmaker, right? Where last season we needed a lot more, particularly under Darvin Ham and the 5-out offense that we were running. You need that. You need that guy that could do that. And instead of Darvin Ham playing DLo on ball more often when LeBron went to the bench, many times he would sit LeBron and DLo together and then have Austin Reeves play that role. And we've seen how that goes. I mean, even this season, Austin Reeves has his struggles on ball. Lakers are one of the worst teams at dealing with ball pressure. And guess who has the highest usage of his career? Austin Reeves, right? Like, it's an issue. But how do you kind of solve that? How do you kind of relegate that? I really do think that you move Rui to the bench. This isn't the first time I've talked about it. I've talked about this several times. But I do think by moving Rui to the bench, now he gets to play the 4 more. And on top of that, you can kind of have different looks in the starting 5, right? Like, you could go with something like, and Gabe Vincent if you want. He's been playing better lately, particularly in the starting unit, point of attack defense. Go with like a Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, right? Or you could go with, Austin Reeves, Cam Reddish, Dalton Connect, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, right? You could kind of configure different lineups and matchups out there accordingly, however JJ seems fit. But then when you get to the bench, right, DLo and Rui can kind of be more focal points. DLo can be on ball more, and Rui Hachimura can now play more 4 and fill that spot for LeBron James. So, for example, I would, if I was the coach, have Rui come off the bench, and then, at the 7-minute mark or whatever, you take out Austin Reeves, you take out LeBron James, you could even take out Gabe Vincent if you want, and put in D'Angelo Russell, Max Christie, and Rui Hachimura, right? So you get that kind of athleticism, that defense that Max provides alongside D'Angelo Russell, right? And DLo can now be on ball. He can operate and make the plays and do the things that he needs to do. And you can kind of have like a different look from what the starting unit looks like, right? And then, you can have Anthony Davis in there for, a stretch, for a stint with DLo, and allow DLo and him to kind of play the 2-man game, operate that. You could even have Dalton Connect. Like, there's a large stretch that Dalton Connect and D'Angelo Russell were the second best duo in the league behind Jokic and Jamal Murray, right? Because DLo is constantly trying to find Dalton Connect, right? So, like, to me, I just think you put the ball in DLo's hands, let him go and be the playmaker, and then Rui gets to slot in at the 4 where he's a better rebounder, better defensively because he's not going up against quicker, twitchier, more athletic wings. And you can see he can be more aggressive. He can get to his spots. He can, find his shot. He's already slotted into the positions where he likes to operate in and where he's most comfortable at, rather than just standing out on the perimeter the whole game. And then, even then, right, like, you could play LeBron in spots at the 3, But also, if it works, right? Like, let's say you put DLo and Rui on the bench, and you are able to kind of maximize those two better, then maybe you can start cutting down LeBron's minutes a little bit. Maybe you can start cutting down LeBron's production a little bit to where, or his usage a little bit to where he can kind of get some rest, right? He doesn't really want to miss games this season. New 65 game rule. Okay, that's fine. Well, how do you kind of maximize LeBron? You try to cut his minutes down. And how do you do that? You become not as reliant on LeBron, right? Takes LeBron James and Anthony Davis scoring 60 combined for us just to have a chance to win games, right? Well, if you can maximize your other players, particularly guys in Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, guys like that, then I just think that that's best overall for the team. Again, I do believe you need to trade Rui. I do believe you need to trade D'Angelo Russell. I like both, but they're redundant, right? You don't really need them on this team. And Lakers have too many needs that they need to solve. And those are your two highest paid players that are tradable, right? And Rui, I do think, has some value. There have been talks about teams have been interested in Rui and that he kind of has the most value on the Lakers outside of like Austin Reeves, that the Lakers decided to trade Austin Reeves. But because he is a guy that you see, like, okay, if you slot him in the right spot, you slot him in the right position, he could actually have an impact on this roster, right? And because he's had to kind of adapt and masquerade as a three, he's developed skills, particularly the shooting, that he didn't really have, in other years, right? So, or at least the consistency and volume and whatnot, right? Like, so I do think you have to trade them at some point. I think it's about as close to a must as possible. However, until that comes, you need the best version of D'Angelo Russell and the best version of Rui Hachimura possible. You need the most production from those two as possible. One, to help the Lakers win, to help, impact the roster and the team. Also, you would really help the bench scoring that is just terrible. And also potentially raise the trade value a little bit, right? Because the better that they are, the more teams are going to see and go, you know what? Like, hey, right? Like D'Lo coming off the bench, I'm not going to lie, I do think that there is an argument for him to start and Reeves to come off the bench and have Reeves kind of be that sixth man where Reeves can be more aggressive, be more in attack mode, right? Can kind of operate the way that JJ clearly wants him to operate and going up against bench units and stuff. However, I do think trade-wise, putting D'Angelo Russell on the bench and D'Lo buying into that, and if he can continue to produce and he can continue to be productive, I do think that could go a long way for the Lakers too, because I think teams, not many teams need a starting point guard for one, and two, not many teams, are super high on D'Lo. However, if D'Lo is willing to really buy in and accept that bench role, there's a lot of teams that could use his playmaking and shooting and his abilities off the bench. And also, he's not as much of a liability if he's not in your starting five, but, your sixth, seventh, eighth man, right? Like, a big difference. So I do think that this is beneficial. And then same thing for Rui, right? Like, I just think as long as Rui is on this team, if you can play him at the four as much as possible. The problem is LeBron James is best at the four. Could he play little spot minutes here and there at the three? Sure. But you don't want him playing more than like 10 minutes, if that, at the three, because you don't want to wear him down over an 82-game series, right? You see, LeBron gets to kind of just take plays off, take games off at times, playing the four because, he's on the weak side of most of the action and he can kind of play in that free safety role. And he does, how many times do we see him not even go out and contest, right? Like, but you can kind of get away with that at the four. It's not great regardless, but you can get away with it a little more at the four than you can if he's slotted at the three. And he's responsible for, again, quicker, twitchier, athletic guys. Also, he's in the mix of most of the action, right? Being on the strong side. It's a tougher ask if you're the Lakers and LeBron, right? But if you can get Rui, like I said, if you can cut LeBron's minutes down to 30 minutes, right, then that opens up at least 18 minutes at the 4. You could still play Rui some minutes at the 3, right? And then, kind of mix and match stuff accordingly, right? And if Rui's cooking and doing his thing, then you figure it out, right? Or, on offensive purposes, you move Rui to the 4 and then LeBron at the 3, right? Like, I think you gotta at least try and see how it looks, right? At least give it a look. Does it hurt? Worst case is like, okay, like we need him back in the starting unit. But I just think he'll have more of an impact alongside DLo. I think he'll have the better overall impact as a whole on the Lakers and kind of better balance the roster, right? And look, if the starting 5, like let's say you do go whatever, Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Let's say, 3 minutes in, you're just getting torched, and you're like, all right, we need to inject some offense. You can always bring Rui in at any point. You can always, like, just because he comes off the bench doesn't mean he can't play 35 minutes, right? Like, you can make the adjustments and do what you need to do accordingly, right? If he's having a great game, it's like, hey, we're going to close with him, right? You could even close with him if you wanted to. But I just think you have better balance with him kind of coming off the bench, get him some more minutes at the 4, let him play more of his natural position, and, kind of let him and DLo be kind of the main pieces off the bench. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it either way. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.